That's it. All right. So drum industry news. It's that simple, Sean. I click a little button and then magic happens behind the scenes. Drum industry news. We try to highlight some or bring up some topics about aspects of the drum industry that are not talked about or not known by a lot of customers just walking the door, this or that. This one I geared specifically towards John because he's here and I really want his perspective. John Pfeiffer has been teaching at Drums Etc. since Drums Etc. started.
This is true. Yes.
This is he's been around, and he's been around Drums Etc. And he's been a teacher for a very long time. So the topic for this drum industry news segment is the 2023 drum student and how students have changed over the years. I'm sure you have a lot of opinions on this and experience behind this, but I really want to know what it's like. Hey, John, we got a new student for you as of yesterday. Or, hey, John, we got a new student for you, and it's Rick in 85, 86, starting out.
Yeah.
What are the expectations like? What is that initial greeting like? Take it away.
Yeah, well...
Or maybe there's not too many differences. I just imagine that a new student, especially if we're talking youngster, is different now.
Yeah.
Know?
I think it is.
Yeah, it is different. But over the years, as a teacher, you're going to find your way. Okay, there's always the fundamentals. You've got to make sure you have an understanding of all those things and the materials that are available. Okay, so you have that together. Then over time, like I said, you start finding out what is a good approach to be able to, so you're talking about a new student, to evaluate a new student and somewhat be able to get rolling with what you feel the student needs. And most of the time it's pretty simple because you're just talking about fundamentals. And every teacher wants to do that for sure. Put the fundamentals to the students so they understand what this is about.
I always found that like students tend to have a different, not every student, because fundamentals are that doesn't change. So yeah, totally. But everyone's preconceived idea of what it takes to start playing drums and everything, that has had to change over these years, right? I mean, the fundamentals don't change, but being able to identify, okay, what is this young student? He's into playing drums. What is he like? Usually, back in the day, it's like, oh, okay, you aspired to be this, the jazz drummer you saw, or the rock drummer, or you liked certain styles of music, and that's what inspired all of us. But now the kids are different, or not just kids, everybody consumes things differently, and now the new students that are coming through are just a totally different breed than what was coming through 20 years ago. Which was probably my generation of, it's like, okay, I could relate to those guys. Now it's something completely new. It's like, okay, fundamentals don't change, but it's like, I know that sometimes you can start with those fundamentals, and all the while you need to kind of, still encourage the student to, like what he likes, or kind of gear towards, what he's expecting out of it, without going too opposite the one way where he just loses interest, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So can you pinpoint, are there a couple of expectations now that didn't exist then, or vice versa, as far as first lesson coming into it?
Well, Sean was right in regards to you really have to take the individual
Right.
into consideration. What's going on here? What do they have to say? And as you gain more experience, and as the times change, and the student, their expectations changes because it's a different time. They're exposed to a lot of different things than back in the day. They're kind of, let's get on with this.
Right.
And that's the balancing act. to be able to give them those fundamentals that they absolutely have to have, and they should have, and instilling that discipline, because that's one of the real pluses in studying an instrument, is getting to that place. And then what do they want to do?
Yeah, are they interested in playing in school band? Are they liking
Absolutely.
video game music? Are they liking what your dad listened to? Do they like
wanna play in a
jingles?
band,
Yeah,
or do they
wanna
not
play in a
care
band?
about that?
Are they into electronical styles of music? All of that is relative, and so are the fundamentals. So totally, I'm so like, I know that you are big on fundamentals, and that doesn't change, which is the great thing.
no,
You
it
know,
doesn't.
that doesn't change. But all the while, you know, you'll get maybe the older guy who's coming in who wants to. He thinks that like one lesson is going to do it, or he has a preconceived idea of what he's going to get out of this, and you're like, oh, okay, and you do the evaluation like you do. You go, okay, that's part of it. Looking at the whole picture, you're evaluating this guy who's coming in, and you go, okay, we're going to have to take it back to the beginning. You know, because we need to work on these fundamentals. And that might
Yep.
not be what he wants to hear,
Yeah.
you know, he or
Yeah.
she. But
But
it's the truth.
it's the truth.
That's it. Well, I do want to mention that you're very good at that. And I
Yeah.
know if there's ever someone specifically that is like, this is what I need, or I don't know what I need, or I'm trying to play this, but it's not quite working. Anyone that approaches us with a puzzle, I know within 5 minutes of you talking with them and seeing them playing, you're just going to be like, pinpoint, that's
Yeah.
it. That's what you need to work on. That's where you need to focus. And then it's up to them if they want to put the work in or not.
Right.
You know, that's where the ball kind of,
Yeah, because, you know, as a teacher, I know that you want to teach for the student, but you don't want to let the student dictate how you teach either. So
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that, and I know you don't do that. But yeah, you can fall down that trap very easily. With like, okay, it's a new student, so you know, I'm just going to let him call the shots, and you can't do that.
right. You're seeking expertise.
Yeah.
Speaking of seeking expertise, Sean, students coming in for lessons
Yes.
versus, you know, what is your interaction with them? You've worked the shop over 20 some years, forever. Sean's been here forever too.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Ding, ding,
Ding,
ding.
ding. No, but you've worked here for a long time. Is there a difference in the student that comes in for their lesson now and the student that comes in back when you started?
Yeah, I do. I think so.
What's the difference?
I can't put my finger on it exactly.
Yeah.
There's no difference really in the parent getting the youngster involved. That's
Yeah.
still kind of the same. You know, why they're inspired, that might change, but that approach hasn't changed very much where, you know, you'll get the phone call or a parent will come in or email and say, hey, I have a youngster who's interested in playing drums. He's 7 years old. How do lessons begin? Well, that really hasn't changed. But what has changed is what the new drummers are into. You know, it used to be, especially me coming up. You know, you turn on MTV, you listen to the radio, and that was what was kind of like, you digested, and that's what you were kind of into. But now there's so many different acts, artists, styles out there to consume, so that is a little different than it used to be. Everyone used to be, I wouldn't say that everyone was into the same thing, but everyone
Right.
was into the same thing, you know? Back in the day, everyone was into the same thing. It felt like anyway. Now it's like, I don't even know what anybody's into
Yeah.
or likes anymore. But as long as people still want to drum and we keep that alive and the fundamentals and the art of drumming, we're good to go, because drumming, no matter what style of music we're doing, it's there.
Yeah.
Drums are there in it
Right.
all, whether it's electronic, acoustic, organic,
Yeah, there's
hand percussion,
foundations and rhythm.
It's all still there.
It is interesting that you bring that up, like saying everyone, you know, and I know what you're getting at. When we talked to Carl, you and Carl were talking about how many, like you and him, and you weren't alone, saw Lars Ulrich,
Right.
listened to Metallica as their first tape, and said, I want to do that.
Right.
That's what I want to play like Metallica, and picked up the drums because of that. There are record sales of Tama white drums from that era,
Yeah.
trying to look like Lars's kit. You
And-
know,
and you can
can't
go
ignore
back
that or deny that.
To Nanamaker's generation with the Beatles, the same thing. It's like everyone was so
Yep.
like blown away with
Those oyster
that
kits,
changed
Ludwig was
everything.
churning them out, man.
Yeah, but that changed everything. And then of course back in the day with John, and we can get to that. I know he was around music, at an early age because of his father, but we can get into that. What was his rock star? What was his rock
Yeah.
star moment?
Why do you
what is
think?
it? Whoa,
That's
this
a great.
guy.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
John, overall, before we get into specifics about your story, why do you think a lot of drummers picked up the sticks around the time that you did? What do you think was the driving inspiration behind that?
Probably, we have to go with the old guys that were coming to the forefront, because drums were kind of in the background, supporting the music and all that. And then all of a sudden there was this drummer man, Gene Krupa. And now he's at the front of the band
Yeah.
and doing all this really cool stuff. And you would
Uh-huh.
go, wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow. And that was what did it for me,
Yep.
being able to see the drum set. Because early, that was pretty early when I was hip to him, but that was through my dad. My father was hip to the big bands and all that, and it was big band music that I would hear, and it was, the swing music. So I was hearing that, I'm going, that's pretty cool. And then it was just, Buddy Rich, that was a whole nother story, because he was just something else, especially at that time period. He was a real freaky man, because he had played from such a young age and had developed just physically, just his whole being, to play drums
Right.
from the get-go. I mean, he started playing drums
Traps.
professionally when
The
he was
boy wonder.
18 months old. And,
Yep.
and then he's on the circuit with his parents.
Vaudeville.
And right, all that. And would get advice like, hey, kid, don't do it that way. Do it this way, from some of the great drummers in the pit,
Yeah.
playing all those shows and everything. So he had some guidance in that regard. Don't do that. Do this, kid. That
Yeah.
was a big deal, where he just put it all together.
I was just about ready to say, those are the guys that created it. They did put it all
Yeah.
together, because before that, it was a totally different ball game back in the day. And guys like Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa came along and put drums in the forefront and really created that.
They be that iconic drummer
Yes, yeah,
position,
Uh-huh.
rather than just the support.
Yeah.
Where non-drummers know who the drummer is in the band, and drummers had their own bands. Like
All that.
all built off of, built up over time.
Yeah, that's the deal. So
It's really cool. It's really cool that's sort of how things evolved.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I rather that more of like a burst in a time period, like over history, some things gradually develop, and then there are other things that's just like bam, now this is the new thing. Like iconic inventions or this or that, and all of a sudden it shakes what's going on. Drumming, the drum set wasn't a thing for so long until that kind of got, and then it was very quick around that time period where it's just like, not only are drums and drum sets being integrated into popular music, but now the drummer can be the main guy, can be like the act you're going to see.
Yeah.
You're going to see Buddy Rich's
And then-
band.
then the
Buddy
art-
Rich and his band.
Then the art of drumming became what it became.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is almost a quick question, which is like another thing, another segment we do here. But I don't get annoyed when I get asked this question, but when I do get asked this question, it's almost as if people are like losing faith in the art. Like I get really like inside of my head when they ask me this. It doesn't come out and I answer it politely and everything. But some people are like, so you guys really get new students? Like kids are picking up guitar and picking up drums? Really? Is that actually happening? And in my mind, I'm like, of course it's like music is so integral into our society. Like of course new musicians are coming out, but there's some rumor, not rumor, but I don't know what the best way to describe it is. Like video games. It's not video killed the radio stars. Video games killed musicians for some reason. People correlate those two things so
Yeah.
closely together. Like, kids aren't picking up the guitar or drums nowadays. They're just sitting in their rooms playing video games. And I'm like, I don't know why these two are so connected for you, besides just being hobbies or pastimes.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, we're
Yeah.
getting new students.
Yeah.
People are picking up the sticks
know.
all over, and I just kind of want to dispel that a
Yeah.
little bit.
You're absolutely right.
Because I don't know why those two are so closely related.
Because of what you just said, it's
The hobby
it's like
thing.
when you start coming up and you want to get a hobby, whether it's drawing or painting or exercising or you name it.
Yeah.
It's how you use your spare time.
Yeah.
And what better way to use your spare time than learning an instrument and playing, especially the drums. I mean,
Oh,
that,
yeah.
it's like
Oh yeah, we're allowed to be biased, especially the drums, drummers.
Yeah. Well,
on drum key.
all of it has to do with just basic discipline to be able to, get to it. It really is just that part that is important. And what was I just thinking? I was thinking you were saying, Adam, about I was thinking like somebody would be saying like the arts, they're dying.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's fading away because we have all this. Well,
it's changing.
I mean, there's been distractions. I kind of go along with that, which has caused maybe there could have been more people that might have gone to that place, the arts. But at the same time, there's so much all the information that's available. I think there's more that people are actually gravitating toward the arts. And that's important. That's really, really important. And the more that happens, the better off we will be, instead of things where we're not spending our time well. We're kind of wasting our time. We have hand-eye coordination. We're playing some video game or whatever, and some of that has some value. Some of the storylines and all, and that can be fun. But I look at it a lot when I see in some of the activity along those lines. It's like a time sponge. I mean, it's just like the time goes away, and you're putting a lot of time there, and you could be spending it in a better way. To better yourself and be a stronger person. Just to be able to deal with anything. And that's what I feel about learning an instrument, especially drums, in regards to developing a discipline and being able to focus and see a lot of things, because that's what we do. We're training the brain in a lot of ways, depending on how you're working the materials and the like, especially when you're playing the drum set with all four limbs. And there's numerous things that have to take place. And, the common man walking down the street, he doesn't have that going on. Okay? There's other ways of there's other stimuli, but this is more of the discipline, the focus. So there's a whole nother thing going on up here. And so that's time well spent.
And it's an indescribable feeling when you're in that zone and you're playing. Like, you can't, the normal guy walking down the street, he might have other stimulation, be stimulized in some other ways, but there's nothing quite like when you're in that zone playing or practicing and you're getting it and you're feeling it, man. It's like, it's such a good feeling. I don't know if video game players get that. Maybe they do.
Yeah, I would say there's a big element or key element of self-awareness when it comes to stuff like this. When it comes to video games or drumming or whatever it might be. Any way I know we're zeroing in on video games.
I know.
I play video games. I'm
Yeah,
not worried
Yeah,
about
sure.
it.
No.
Yeah, I know you
that's
do.
fine.
But my point is that you need to be aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? You need to be
Okay.
aware, is this just a payoff? Are we putting time into the drums for the payoff of, a year down the line, that gig that felt so good? and not that you received applause or this or that, but when you were in the
Yeah.
zone with the band, that
That's it.
that euphoria, is that what you're chasing?
Yeah.
Well, that's a year away if you do this now.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
that brain development. Or are you just looking to escape? Do you put on Netflix just for escapism? It's like, okay, are you turning your brain off, or are you developing your brain?
Yeah.
It's a very different.
I put the headphones on and jam along to music to escape.
Yeah,
You know?
that's okay. That's okay, and we're not demonizing that. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like.
But going back to what you said earlier about when somebody said to you, "Really have new students like coming in?" Those people haven't spent much time on YouTube or Instagram because there's a lot of really great drummers out there. Like so many, so many great drummers that you could, at your fingertips that you could just, type in and John is always coming to me and telling me about someone new. Oh, you check this guy out. Oh my gosh, you have to check out. Do you know who this guy is? I'm like, no, he's more hip than I am. He's always telling me about somebody new to check out. I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm following him now on Instagram. Watching these great drummers. So it's alive and well. I mean, there's so many great drummers right now.
And they are a lot of those guys are conveying the proper information too.
Yep.
They're not just they're talking to you. They're playing incredible things. They're just amazing, But then they're talking about like it took me probably 15 years to be able to play this,
Right.
Yeah.
that kind of thing,
Right.
And so it's very inspiring, and there's a lot of people doing it. And I was just thinking, I can't go there. I was going to just say that there's a lot of innovation that's taking place in our world, the whole planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And all these people kind of, got hip through their cultures and the like. And then, of course, we became pretty obvious with our music, our pop culture, certainly our original creative art form, jazz, which that's part of freedom and what we have here and all that. And, of course, that music spread around the world. And there's so many of these young players that are really grabbing a hold, and they know the history. They've done their homework. Some of them are a little freaky because it is a gift. Like that the Spanish gentleman. Was it Esperio? Sabriano, the Spanish guy that's freaking everybody out
Yep.
with just his stick tricks and everything. But he is just so on point. And
great.
his feel and just everything is just. But he has worked it really hard. And now he's in a position to really inspire some folks because it's really becoming very broad range now. His last whatever, because he's been around for a bit. And I know his band, well, I guess he left. I'm not quite sure the time frame there, but I don't think it was that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You hip to the band? Saratoga
Yep.
is the Spanish band. And I mean, they're outstanding.
Yeah.
Really great band. And they got him back there in the driver's seat.
Right.
And just really everything
Yep.
just so on point.
And I'm sure
Every
that he's
piece of it.
inspiring people now too,
Totally,
in a different way
And-
than I was inspired.
Yep.
And people are consuming their information differently, just going through reels, and he pops up, and it's like, oh crap! I don't know if I've seen that come through yet. Like, because I always ask, the new students coming through, like, what do you like?
Yeah.
I try to stay away from who's your favorite band kind of thing, but
it's a tough question,
it's a
especially
tough
for
question. I'm just like, oh, well, what got you into playing? It could be a favorite band. It could be an uncle that's playing drums. It could be your dad playing drums. It could be watching your buddies in school band play. It could be so many different things, and it could be also just going through your YouTube reels, and all of a sudden you come across this great drummer who just blows your mind, and you go, I want to do that.
That's it. Innovation is growing based on inspiration because of the access that everyone has to the information.
Right.
There it is.
Wow.
These times.
That's it. All right. Good
Yeah.
time to move on. Let's